Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Dev Spotlight with Neon City Daily. I'm Jamie.
I'm Josh.
And I'm still Dave.
And today we're talking to Arcade from Neon Giant. Say hi, Arcade.
Hi, Arcade.
Nice.
Your team have just released the Ascent. Congratulations on that. It's a rad game.
It is.
Thank you.
Yes, we very much
Thank you
enjoy
so
it.
much.
Would you like to just run us through, who you are and what role you have in the company?
Absolutely. So my name is Arcade, and I am one of the founders and creative director on Neon Giant. And like you were saying, we just released our first game under the name Neon Giant, but everyone here has quite significant track record from the industry. So we're not the typical bootstrap indie in that sense. I'm super excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah, and we're really excited to have you on. How long have you guys been making the Ascent?
So we started the studio right after Easter 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you could argue that we started on the Ascent, but it's been a lot of parallels going on, because we started a studio with just a couple of people, and then we had to actually build a team, hire. And we hired during 2019 and 2020 as well. And the game came as we figured out how do you run a company. We made games before, but we haven't handled that part. So there's been a lot of stuff going on. But took about 3 years.
And that was a team of 11?
12, yeah.
12, yeah. Wow.
Was the game something that you had in mind before the studio was established, or did that come afterwards?
The game that we released was not the idea until we released it. When we started, we didn't start the studio to make this game.
Yep.
We started the studio because we had an idea of how we think one can make games. Mm-hmm. And we knew that we had to be really pragmatic about, well, what game do we make first, since we don't even have a team, but we need to be working on something. So we started with something very humble that we knew we could scale. So with the Ascent we released, and I'm very proud of it, but it's a pretty massive game for the genre, right? And that's because
huge.
we brought on a lot of talented people, and we want them to do what they're good at, right? We're not going to hold anyone back. But it could have been much smaller, right? Like, had we not gotten some of the expertise, certain things would not ever had even been an idea for the game, right? But we did see that this top-down, I don't like saying twin-stick shooter because it comes with a lot of ideas that aren't really true for the Ascent, I feel.
Yeah.
But we saw that there's a slot here where we can come in and actually compete even at a smaller scale. And then we just kept building on that, and we added layers and layers, and RPG and online and all of that.
I was thinking about how a mod came out not that long after that let you run around in first-person mode within the Ascent, and just like the kind of detail and the scope of the world was, you haven't really seen that in a game that you could classify as a twin-stick shooter, and that did lead me to wonder, like, was that the initial intent, or were you kind of like building
It was
up
a staggering amount of detail.
It's super impressive.
No. That just happened because those are the kind of people we have on the team, and I agree with you. And I'm not an artist, so for me it's okay to say this. But the game is gorgeous, and that's because the games that they're used to be working on has this fidelity, right? And it's very hard not to do your best, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we had to keep building. We couldn't ever, stop working. So the world ended up as large as it became, because that's how much the time allotted us to make, if that makes sense. But we were never going to lower the quality. And now in retrospect, that turned out great, because now I will argue that we've made a mark on this genre. And regardless of what people think of the game, some people love it, some people wish it was something different. Everyone, or I would say a lot of people, will be talking about the Ascent for a long time to come, I think. And I think the Ascent will come up whenever someone starts thinking, should we do a top-down shooter, or should we do a a real-time action thing with a top-down camera, I know that the Ascent is going to be a point of reference. Whether you do it the same way or not, it's going to be part of the discussion. And that feels really good.
Absolutely. So how much has the game changed since you started? Was there always a clear objective, a clear outcome in your mind?
No, we never had a clear outcome. And that was deliberate.
Yep,
again, because we
organic.
didn't know. Yeah, we didn't know who was going to be on the team. So we didn't want to decide things, let's say animation-wise, before we had an animator. That person has to come in and help us drive that. We knew certain things, and we make certain promises to a publisher, etc. It's going to be this and this and this. But we always intended for the game and the project, development-wise, to be very flexible.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, you can kind of tell that there's so much craftsmanship and love put into every bit of the game. And I keep coming back to it and finding little things that really impress me or catch me off guard. Like, I think a good example would be just like the general audio in the game. I was noticing that, like, even if characters have got the same gun equipped, the audio is that each character has like their own sort of sound profile, I guess. Like there's just like, I don't know, a lot of like great things that I really enjoy about the game on just a presentation level.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the audio definitely delivers, and I'm definitely gonna give credit where credit is due. And Sweet Justice, a sound studio that's been helping us a tremendous amount with this, and it's become more of a partnership than work for hire. And they are amazing, and they bring with them audio experience from other games, like with the guns. It's the guy that made a lot of the gun sounds for stuff like Halo, right? He's done this before. Sweet Justice are the guys that won a BAFTA for the audio in Cuphead. Obviously a very different game, but it's good stuff. So in that repertoire you got Fortnite, Battlefield, Mortal Kombat, Halo, Us, etc. So it's good company to be in.
Yeah, awesome. How did you find it getting a small company kind of off the ground to, like, from where you started to where you ended up?
Oh, that's a good one. We knew that we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. But I think we were surprised with wherein the challenges would lie. And some things were easier and some things were much harder and some things took way more time. But we definitely underestimated the effort the running a business side would take, because we figured, this is not going to be about running a business. This is going to be about making games. But apparently, while people are making a game, someone has to run the business.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen by itself. So it's been tough in the way that there is a lot of stuff there that we have had to learn by doing. So we have definitely come out much stronger now of knowing how that stuff works. But we're very happy that we managed to build a tremendous team, I'd say, that supports the vision, if you will, with the game and with the studio. Sorry. So it's been a learning experience.
And it sounds like you took an extremely collaborative approach. As you were saying, you would have ideas in mind, but then people would come on board who specialize in certain areas, and you're all working to such a high standard as well that you just seem to place a lot of trust in people and their skill set, and the results speak for themselves. Yeah,
I think you have to. I mean, my goal is to be the least qualified person in the building. We should only hire people that are better than us. Or we should only hire people that know how to do something we don't already know how to do. Because if we just need more of something that we're already very adept at doing, we can outsource it. So we really try to expand that knowledge base in the studio. And if someone from a discipline I'm not as comfortable in tells me this is how I think we should do it, or this is how I've done it in previous games, or this and this, we might have a discussion where I go like, please explain it to me. But I will have to trust that person in a good way. Well, you're better than me at this. My job is more than we need to be done with all of this by this point. Not we have a producer as well who's way better than me at this. But I'm still, along with my fellow co-founder, responsible for the game shipping, right? So we can't just say, do anything you want and tell me when it's done. So there's always that.
Yeah.
And there's always, well, the game we are shipping is this. It's 4-player co-op. It's online and offline. Like, these are not things where you could argue, I don't think we should do online unless the reason is we can't do it. But other than that, absolutely, that people should be able to flex their creative muscles.
So when the game released, you have a Steam version and a version that's running the Games for Windows multiplayer infrastructure. Were there any difficulties in implementing both of those into like 2 separate versions of the game?
Yeah, the challenge is that they're different, right? So it's not that one is better than the other. It's that they build on different, development tools, if you will. And that one can be tricky. So it's, again, with us just being so few people, so out of those 12, only a fewer programmers, etc. It's very hard to maintain more versions. So on release, there were some disparities between the versions, and we're working still to this day on making sure to bring them up to par. And there's also different processes with how you update them, on how you get the patch out, and some, for instance, some take time. And that's where it can become a challenge for us, being so small, to be able to manage all these moving pieces.
Right, because Microsoft have a procedure to go to before they will actually release a patch, correct?
Exactly, because they need to basically verify it working, which is good, because that's how when we say that, but console games just work, PC can be whatever, and that's exactly why, because these first-party companies have a procedure saying this game will not reach market unless you pass our tests, which is perfectly fair. But it's the same for patching.
And so does that mean that you will, if you've got like a patch done for both versions, will you wait for Microsoft to give the okay before putting them on Steam and Xbox? Or will you just kind of like throw it on the Steam and be like, yep, that's good, and then release the Xbox patch once Microsoft gives the green light?
So that's what we're trying to figure out. I don't have a straight answer to you.
I mean, yeah, it's a tricky one.
Like, and that's not to mention all the different Xbox consoles at the moment as well.
Yeah, well,
that's almost a PC landscape now, the Xbox world.
Yeah.
Did that present many challenges, the different SKUs when it comes to the Xbox hardware, or are they fairly similar to build on?
They're very similar to build on. It's just that they have different capabilities, right? So you need to make sure that it works on basically the lowest tiers, and then that it scales up in an elegant way for stronger machines.
The latest Xbox doesn't have ray tracing, does it? I don't know. I don't know.
No, correct.
No, okay, good. That's all right. My PC still has superiority. That's the main thing.
Just kind of getting back to like the game setting and the world, like there's obviously like a lot of cyberpunk influences. There's some Gibson-esque stuff in there, and there's like a very Blade Runner feel to it. Were there any other inspirations that you were drawing from when creating the world?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those, and I'm not messing with you guys, but this is one of those almost silly questions. It's one of the best questions, so I'll give you that, because it's what you really want to know, and it's what I want to know about a piece of work that I like. But it's also, I very strongly believe that everything we ever make, be that you write a novel or a haiku, or you make a game or a movie or a song, you are always inspired by everything you've ever seen, read, heard, smelled, tasted, right? And we as individual people, even not being developers, but outside of that, we watch a lot of sci-fi, a lot of cyberpunk. We read it. Like I'm big into manga and anime. So like, of course, like if you're gonna ask me, so was Cyber City Uedo a reference? Was Akira a reference? Was Ghost in the Shell a reference? Yes, and yes. Of course it was, because if I'm gonna be working with these brushes, I'm gonna look at everything I've ever seen. And with that also comes a Blade Runner and the obvious ones. But if you want some examples that we've explicitly talked about in the office, we often refer to the original RoboCop movies, for example.
Nice.
Jamie is very happy right
You've
now.
just won a friend.
Okay. Because we feel that one has the right tone of, it's violent, it's pretty nasty, it's gritty, but it's fun.
Absolutely.
It's not just grim, and we as a studio and as developers, we can't really do horrible, angsty, grim, dark, everyone is suffering. And I personally don't believe in that world either, because no matter how horrible the world is, people will still try and get by. People will still try and hustle. People will still try and, make fun of their friends or their enemies, right? Yeah. There has to be some tongue in cheek. And I also think with the violence we were going for, we're looking at RoboCop, we've been looking at Dread. We have fights in the office if we're looking at the one with Stallone or the one with Colorban, but we're definitely looking at it because that is satisfying violence, right? And it's a very cool city. So we're looking at a lot of stuff that aren't, directly cyberpunk, if you will, and they're not the space dramas like Fifth Element either, which of course we've looked at. So we've been all over the place, really.
That's fantastic, though, because I mean, when I first booted up the game, the moment I got a hand cannon, I was like, "Oh, I can do a RoboCop build."
Yeah,
I was so excited.
There you go.
And that's the beauty of a cyberpunk setting in general, is it's just such a melting pot often of different cultures and different influences as well.
Yeah, that's really a term we often use the word melting pot for that exact reason, because we didn't look at a cyberpunk world saying this is what we want to make. It's like cyberpunk is the perfect excuse to put whatever the F you want in it.
Yeah. I do think you've let me kill one too many civilians. I find that much too satisfying, but
well, I wouldn't say let. We do tell you.
Yeah, you get told off.
Yeah, they go, we don't love this. I love the balance you've struck with the violence. So it's fun. It is a beautifully fun and enjoyable way to mow down the enemy and run through the world. The weapons are pleasing. Yeah. Like, I love the RPG. That is just my go-to weapon.
Oh, it's right.
Just exploding things.
Yep.
It's very satisfying.
And so what are the immediate plans now? Is it still kind of post-release support?
Yeah. So the stuff we're talking about with the different platforms and patching, right? Because we know there's still issues with the game. The game was a success, which is fantastic.
Absolutely.
But with this amount of players, we're also finding a lot of bugs we didn't see during development. Because even if it's just a decimal in the percentages, that's a lot of players now, which is fantastic. So we want to instead of with words, with action, now show the community that we are not abandoning the Ascent, that we will keep patching it and make sure that it's as good as can be. And we're keeping a close eye on the community overall to see what we can do with updates, because we're not just going to leave this by the side of the road and start on something else.
And that's a great attitude to have. I love that from a developer, when they're willing to keep supporting their product. I could name various AAA titles I've played where they stop as soon as they've released it and work on the next one. So that's fantastic.
Yeah,
it is a testament. You can see the passion that was put into the game, and you've explained exactly why that's happened. And I really appreciate learning about that collaborative approach. But with the game world itself, I just look at it and go, how from the imagination to the code, it's just an impressive feat. Are there plans to make it bigger, or is it bigger than you ever imagined?
That's a really interesting question and way of thinking of it. We, from day one, said and knew that whatever we created, whatever we wrote, whatever we made, we have to think about it as something bigger than the game. We think that's the only way you can create a proper IP and a believable world, because if you only design things that you need right now, you're kind of stuck. And I've seen that worked. One of the almost weird but nicest compliments I saw in a review or a preview was that the guy actually had to do some Googling and see if we based it on a role-playing rule book or something, because he felt that this is developed, where did they get this? But it's all ours. And that shows, admittedly, it was only one guy, but that shows that there's something here that makes you see that this world is bigger than just the arcology that you play the game in, right? So that's always the mentality. And, we designed a bunch of logos and made up companies and stuff that I don't think made it into the game. So if we ever wanted to expand it, we have a pool of things we already know fits in the world, because they in a way then exists already, right? And we have more than one food chain in the arcology, so we've started to establish some trends. So to the opening of your question, yes, I do think it's kind of handling, or like it's moderating itself now, because now if someone creates something new, which is welcome, we can say, does this fit? Because we already have so much. Because after a while, it doesn't get homogenized or streamlined, but you can start getting a sense of, does this fit or not? Because in the beginning you have no idea, because there's nothing to compare it to. So in that sense, it's definitely been or become a bit, let's say, easier to judge if it fits the world of the Ascent.
And were there any like particular gameplay mechanics or things that you kind of playing with, but just thought it doesn't really fit in with what we're after in the game?
Yeah, we had a few. For example, the game used to have ammunition.
Oh yeah.
And that's a pretty significant change. But for me, it comes down to, well, it's fun shooting things. It's not fun if I can't shoot things.
Yeah.
So I always want ammunition. And if we make that statement, which I did, then we have two options. Do we give you a plethora and abundance of ammunition? Then it serves no purpose. Or do we keep it tight? But then we're introducing this idea of economy and managing resources. But that's not what I want to be doing. So we scrapped ammo altogether. So that was a pretty big one. Yeah. And we had like a mini game for the hacking. Because now you just hold down a button, right? And now there's a big sphere and it hacks everything in reach. Yeah. There used to be a mini game on how you select the targets and yada yada, and that was kind of cool. And it's a mini game I haven't seen, so I might keep that for another game.
Keep that under your hat.
But it didn't fit in with, again. But what is the game? Well, the game is not bringing up a mini game mid fight. So there's a bunch of stuff. You used to be able to install individual software into your cyberdeck, and the cyberdeck had different stats, and but a lot of that just came to us starting to streamline it and removing features instead of adding new ones. It's like this is in the way of what we want it to be.
Were there any arguments among like the team about what should or shouldn't be cut?
Not really. Might sound like a bogus answer, but I think we overall agreed on, this doesn't really sit right. There might have been things where, maybe someone wasn't convinced and we said, okay, let's work on it a bit more. And then, okay, we got it. It works now. A good thing we didn't cut it.
Yeah.
And of course, there are things that we cut that maybe had we invested more time, it would have been awesome. But then there's also the reality of actual development cost. And for everything you do, you're not doing something else.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, it's if you've got something that's kind of slowing down or it's not quite there, sometimes it's better just to remove it instead of tinker with it and waste time.
How much time can you keep spending on features? How did you go with your release sort of schedule? Were you happy to release it when you released it? That was your sort of target?
Well, it wasn't the initial target. And I mean, we did delay it. I mean, the pandemic didn't help anyone. And we also just overall felt that the game deserves a bit more time. Someone else asked regarding this push, what was it that wasn't working? Was there a specific feature that wasn't there? It's like, no. It was the same game. It's just that we felt that overall we can, with a bit more time, we can do it better, and it deserves that after you having invested. Was it 2.5 years at that point? I don't remember. But if we dedicate ourselves and invest a bit more time and obviously then a bit more money, we think it will be worth it in the long run. We will be able to deliver a better game, and we definitely did. So I think that was a good thing. So yes, I'm happy with where we ended up releasing it. I think the answer would have been, well, marketing wise, I would have been happy with the previous release as well, because you never say if you aren't. But truthfully, I think the game would not have been as good had we released it with the initial plan.
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer a delayed game be great than a non-delayed game just be good. So it's one of those things.
I think that's changed.
Yeah,
because it used to be that players would be pretty upset.
Yeah.
And players have this sense of, well, I'm just going to bash players now. That would be a bad idea. But a lot of players can have a certain sense of entitlement that this is my game and I want it now, and you promised it for Christmas.
Yes.
But I've definitely seen a shift. I'm gonna say 5 or maybe even 10 years with a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm glad. Good on you. Do it well. I'll be here supporting, waiting, rooting for you. But of course, I'm eager. Please release it now."
Yeah.
And that's the risk you run, I guess. That's the fine line between marketing your game and attaching a release date to it to build that anticipation.
I think also a lot of people have, like, we've seen a lot of games get hyped and, they've fallen short of what's been promised.
You've released the best cyberpunk themed game in recent memory.
It's better to have a game where you can kind of go, oh, this is what I expected it to be, instead of going like, this isn't quite what I was after, or it's not like what I was after at all, And,
that's also in 2020, after we announced the game, we were pretty silent for a while.
Yeah.
And there were community chat about like, why aren't they telling us anything? I want to know, how can they do this to me, right? And for us, it's, I don't ever want to say something that isn't true, and I don't want to have to go back on something we said we're working on this and then say, oh, it didn't work out. It wasn't as fun as we hoped it would be, or whatever it is. So that's why we waited. I mean, it wasn't just my decision, it was, everyone's and the publisher and everything. But we waited for basically a big push, let's say the last half a year or something. And I think that really worked to our favor, because then we could say, this is the game, this is what's in it, look at it. It has laser dragons, this is it.
Yeah.
Instead of, and I know a lot of studios do this and it's perfectly fine. I just don't feel comfortable is, promising we are gonna do this in the future. We're gonna make this, because that takes away from some of the stuff I was talking about earlier with, well, we want to experiment and we want to let people do what they're good at. And then I shouldn't go out and running around the town and promising things.
Yeah, promising the mood will definitely get the hype levels up, but when you have to deliver, that's when things can get tricky.
That's when the backlash happens.
Yeah.
That's when Reddit will get you.
Yeah, a lot of people have. We've kind of lived through that for like the last few generations, and I think people they're happy now to wait if it means that the product's going to be good.
Yeah, I think so
and good
too.
on you for doing it. So with so you got Neon Giant, you've got the Ascent. They both sound like kind of themed together. Are you potentially looking, when you move on from the Ascent, will you branch out into different types of settings, or are you kind of happy to stick in the Ascent world for a while?
It's probably a bit too early to say, exactly. Well, not I don't even know exactly what we'll be doing, to be honest with you. But we as a studio are not set on this is the type of game we're making, more than we need to play to our strengths, and our strengths, everyone here has a background in action games.
Yep.
We're never gonna make the super immersive walking simulator. We're not gonna make the artsy-fartsy game about expression. Because I have a huge amount of respect for them, but I can't make them. That's not the type of creator I am. I make shit go boom, and that's gonna have to be in every game we make. And what the camera perspective is, or what the story is, or what the world is, that's not crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of publishers, we've mentioned them a few times, and obviously you've worked with Microsoft. You found them to be supportive. Obviously you're not going to shit on them now, but they've been generally supportive.
No.
I mean,
Yes, yeah. No, this is a question that comes up a lot, and the best thing that they did for us, the two best things they did for us. The first thing was that they, very early when they saw the game, before it was, a real game, we had the prototype builds, and we have videos, and we have art, and we have assets and stuff. They came by to our office, and when we showed the stuff, they said, "This is special. Don't waste your let's say announce before you figured everything out, because this can be huge.
Yep.
And we would love to do something with you. And that was not, the deal we have today on the table or anything. It was like, we would love to do something. Let's keep talking.
Yeah.
And that was a huge thing for us, because it gave us confidence and it validated what we were doing and what we were striving for. It's like, these guys should know how to judge a game and its potential. They say, this is awesome. Good. Let's continue. Because had they gone, oh, this was great. Anyway, we gotta catch our train now. Bye. Like, they don't seem impressed. That's what did we do wrong? So that was the first thing. And then, further down the line with the partnership, they have given us such a tremendous reach marketing wise. People, we do realize that not as many people would talk about the Ascent if not for the help of Microsoft, because they have, a huge megaphone to use and to shout our name. And that's been super helpful.
Yeah. And that would probably play more into the learning of the business side of things, I imagine, too, that to have that partnership that worked so well for you, that could have been a daunting process were it not for a helpful partner like Microsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. And just even there's always a negotiation. No matter what the deal is, there's always a negotiation, even if it's a happy ending for everyone. It was the first time I had to negotiate with first party, right? That's pretty significant.
Yeah. And so for you personally, was there a point where the game was done, the game was released, where you just felt it's done, we've made it, goal achieved? Was there a specific point in time where, you could feel yourself relax? Because I imagine it's been a pretty hectic 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's okay. That's awesome question, because that's a weird one. No, because we were all waiting for that catharsis of and then it was of course woohoo. Yep. It was great, and seeing the sales was like, okay, we did it, but then why are we still working on it? Why are we? and we knew this. Every game, releases patches. There was a day one patch, and there was another patch, and there's interacting with the community, and there's talking to people. I'm talking to you guys now, which is great, and I'm enjoying it. It was like, but wasn't I supposed to be abroad now? Like, wasn't I supposed to be on a beach? Why am I still getting up in the morning going to work? This is not what I, for some delusional reason, saw in my future.
Well, hopefully you have had a chance to celebrate.
Weird.
Because it is an achievement, and we've certainly all enjoyed it, streamed it, played it.
Yeah, and we've all understood it by now, but it wasn't that one moment of, yes, now this is the moment, the bells are ringing, it's in our honor, everyone, bye. It's just, and people have, vacations and everything is great now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a moment, because it's 2 months, 3 months now since we released the game.
Yeah.
2. Help me out here. But it was never a this was the moment for me, at least. But I don't think anyone had that one big.
I guess game development also in the modern age is so much more different than making a movie or writing a book or producing any other kind of piece of art.
Well, it's almost software as a service now.
Yeah, there's still that level of interactivity between the end user and the developer, and there's like patching and potentially expansions and DLC and all kinds of stuff that just keeps on chugging along. Like, it's once it's released, it's really not the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing for gamers for sure.
Absolutely.
And it's a good thing for developers to be able to not only fix issues, but also respond to some things we notice. A patch gives us an opportunity to maybe readjust or retweak something we see. Well, right, maybe this weapon was a bit more efficient than we thought, or maybe this one wasn't. So it's actually a good thing, and the game is getting better, for every update. But yes, it does mean that you can't just publish the book and it's out in a bookstore and you are then done, unless you just want to go on a tour.
Pivoting slightly, I assume you've tested and played your own product. Is there a setting or level or scene in the game that you are particularly proud of, or that you get a real kick out of? You're allowed to say you love it all. I mean, that's
well, yeah. I would say yes, but they are very tiny and very specific, and it can be, a room rather than a building, rather than a part of the city. I love the fact that I got a detective agency named after me in the game.
Nice.
That for me, that's my little pride. I don't think that gave us 1 extra point on Metacritic, but of course for me that's fun.
Everyone's going to go looking at it now.
Yeah, I'm glad to see a lot of like the weapon ideas and little text tidbits that I wrote. Just because we who worked on it, we can tell, oh, this is from that guy, this is from that guy, this is from that guy. So of course I take pride in my stuff. But area-wise, I really, really, really enjoy Scrapland. I think that's a really fun place. Music is awesome. The art is amazing. And the fact that it's completely optional, I think, makes it worthwhile.
And so, what is your personal history in the game development world?
Okay. So my first job was at Grin back in 2008. And that was not a great game. And then the studio went under. But that was not due to that game, to be honest. There were several games in development at the same time. But no, I started at Grin, and then after they unfortunately went under, this was during the time when seemingly half of all the studios in the universe shut down. I did some contracting. I actually did an educational game about diabetes, because I'm a diabetic myself, so it was a good contract for me. So it was a game to teach children about how to deal with their diabetes, and that won a design award, so that I'm proud of.
Nice.
But then I went to People Can Fly in Poland. Actually, that was part of Epic at the time, and worked on Bulletstorm.
Nice.
And that one I'm really, really proud of. That game I effing love.
Yeah.
And then I did Gears of War Judgment, headed over to Epic HQ, and tried to help out a bit with Unreal Engine 4, Paragon, and they were making this game called Fortnite, and I could clearly see with my business acumen that this is not going anywhere, so I left.
And on a personal level, I'd agree with you, but I'm in the minority clearly.
Yeah. So obviously, since that was a dead end, I left,
get out of there.
Sell up, jump ship.
Yeah. But no, so I joined Machine Games and started working on I think it's roughly 100 Wolfenstein games.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic. Fantastic studio, fantastic games, but enough is enough. And this was when me and Tor Frick started talking about, maybe we should do this thing we've been talking about. And the thing wasn't even starting a studio. The thing was, isn't there a different way of making games? Because we'd been in AAA then for I don't know how many years, and we both agreed that there seems to be a lot of waste. There's a lot of people, right? And you can't be very flexible if you have over 100 people or several hundred people on staff. It's very hard to make adjustments for the studio. It's very hard to be cutting edge. It's very hard to try new ideas. And, people become numbers. And with that, it's very hard to bring out 110% out of everyone, because if you are an artist, you get an artist assignment, an artist task to do. And it's not necessarily catered to you, the individual, with what you can bring to this. And obviously, several months, if not years, of content can be cut. We tried this for a few months. It's like, yeah, but you had 20 people on it. It's like you just threw away years of work if this was one person. That's why you count man months, right? And we just felt surely there must be a better way. And that's one of the reasons we're staying small as well, because the way we work, I think, is nearly impossible if you're 100 people. So with the way we then set up Neon Giant, we said we're going to try and make games this way instead. And seemingly it worked.
I'm just curious, was there any story, if any, behind Neon Giant?
The name?
The name, sorry, yeah.
again, we were pretty pragmatic, and we defined a few rules, which was has to be available, of course. Has to be easy to spell. Should not be a pun.
Oh.
And no, we are deep into puns, and we just felt not in the name. We have to resist. We have to resist. And it should not be misheard. So people, wasn't it something like this? The only time this fails is that sometimes people think it's Neo instead of Neon. Okay. But sure, I'll take that. So with that, we also started mixing just 2 words together. We just had lists and lists of words. And we all also liked giants, as in the beings, the creatures. And, I'm not going to say and what they stand for. But, it's something strong and monumental, right? The neon fits really well with how we want to push tech and video game and all that stuff. So it ended up really well. And along with that, I was very keen on the branding, that the logo is going to be close to 1:1 in aspect ratio, because then you can print it bigger on everything, instead of just having a very wide but low name and stuff like that. So we put thought into it more than just this sounds cool.
Yeah, that's incredibly practical.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
I'm almost embarrassed to say how we came up with our neon name, but
I shot out a few names.
You did.
Okay, let's hear it.
Oh man, I don't even remember what we had. We had like something like
Mega Drivers.
Mega Drivers was a big one that's been taken.
I did like that, but it got taken.
Neon City Daily was like the second to last one that I just kind of came up with. Dude, I don't even remember. It was like
Jamie's our creative, so
scare quotes.
Yeah, we just say come up with
I just threw out weird names like Jamie wants a jetpack, and like joke ones that obviously we probably weren't going to pick, and then a couple that like were okay, and then again we'd make sure that the web address was available and kind of went from there. But I definitely didn't think about things like, will people mispronounce it? Will they find it confusing? Like already I've had people go, why is it called daily if it's not a daily thing? I'm like, don't worry about it. But yeah, it just kind of, we went with it.
You could listen to it daily.
I think that's how you got to do it. And it's the same thing with logo types. Like a logo will very seldom feel right, but then after a while, well, of course this is the logo. This is the logo. It's always been the logo, and I love the logo.
Yeah,
and that's usually the case, right? You just gotta stick with it and defend it when it's questioned.
Yeah.
Yes, people will grow attached to it. It'll be fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, even obviously Neon Giant is great, but looking at a lot of these names, not only for game developers, but let's stay in that realm. A lot of the names are pretty weird.
Yeah.
But now we say them as, well, of course.
Exactly. And
you games. Like I've been hearing about that name for 10 years.
Yeah, you were running through like all the developers, and it's like, yep, I know, I can picture the logo, like even Grin. And I was like, I remember Grin. Like, yeah, it all sticks.
But do you know that Grin actually changed their logo many times?
I did not. I remember the big smile.
Exactly. But for every game released, the smile got an extra gold tooth.
Did it? I was not aware of that.
At least that was the plan. I mean, that was the plan, but it's also like, but the logo is already at a lot of places. How are we gonna,
yeah,
I don't know how far that idea went, but that was the idea, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a cute idea, but yeah, in practice it may fall down at some point.
Eventually,
it was like, we meet, you have a if we meet and you have a green t-shirt, I go, oh, I see you have an old t-shirt.
Yeah, you could age your game pretty easily.
I know when you bought that shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
So you yourself are a fan of games, and you're not allowed to say the Ascent, but what are some, like, I wouldn't ask someone what their favorite game is, because that's too hard.
Mm-hmm.
But just give us 3 or 4.
But what's your favorite game?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it would help if you at least gave me a decade. But whenever I get asked that, the 2 games that pop into my mind are Deus Ex Original and Fallout 2, number 2 specifically.
Nice. Okay. You answered that a lot easier than I thought you were going to.
Deus Ex,
I'm sorry that you sound a bit disappointed.
Deus Ex was a great game. I remember playing that.
Have you played the newer ones?
Yeah, they're
Human
fantastic.
Revolution and
Mankind Divided and Game Revolution. No, I love them. They're great. They're great at making games. It's just that they don't have the same, spot in my childhood of how magical Deus Ex was, because it did so many things just right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm with you there. Absolutely.
And platform of choice? PC?
I'm actually pretty agnostic. Like I'm one of the lucky few to have a PS5, a Series X, a Switch, PC. Like I'll play where the game is, and if it's online, I'll play where my friends are playing.
Yeah, that's how I roll too.
No.
You wanted PC Master Race?
Yes. Very proud member.
Okay.
You've owned consoles, Josh.
I have, and I've swiftly sold them after playing the exclusives.
Yeah, to me.
Yeah, that's right. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you. It was great. It was fun.
Hopefully we haven't. Hopefully, I haven't bombarded you. I'm sure you've done many of these, and hopefully we can.
It's good fun. I mean, we talk about a topic that's pretty near and dear to me. So, me and my game, I'm okay with those two topics.
It'd be weird if you weren't.
Then you started asking about other games, and that's where I got a bit bored.
Nice.
No, this was great. Seriously, guys, this was fun. I like the format.
Rad. All right, okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And everyone listening, thanks so much for joining us.